well. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me for this. Designing night sky experiences, night experiences that make an impact. And it's come off the back of a couple of different things that I'll explain as I go through as well. But thank you. And as I said, feel free to ask any questions in the chat as we go along, or there's a bit of time at the end as well. So, welcome. And I think more than ever, when you're talking about night skies, thinking about our First Nations people, wherever you're joining me from. I know we've got people from Pakistan, we've got some people from England, New Zealand, and Australia. Thinking about the night sky and how this has been our storybook for such a long time, our science, our knowledge, our connection to our past as well. So I think it's really important to acknowledge our First Nations people and understand that connection that they've had for such a long time. And I pay my respects to them. So a little bit of background. Firstly, about me, I guess. I've been running, sorry, I'm letting people in. I've been in tourism most of my life. I started working in hospitality pretty much from the age of 12, doing everything from hotels to restaurants to flight attending. And it's been a really big part of my life, understanding people. It's actually given me a huge background in understanding and respecting people who come from different places. So that's where I've actually come into dark skies as well. And sorry, as I keep talking, people trying to get in. So about 18 years ago, I started Dark Sky Traveller with my husband, Fred Watson, who you can see there in the front, pointing to that wonderful rock carving at Broken Hill. It's on one of our tours, which we actually did for the transit of Venus. And for about 18 years, we've been taking groups all around the world. We've had trips to South America, to South Africa, to the Arctic, all sorts of wonderful places, not to mention our own beautiful backyard in Australia. I had a lot to do with Siding Spring Observatory, both taking tours or leading tours or developing tours for Siding Spring Observatory from a tourism perspective. And also in creating Australia's first dark sky place at the Warrumbungle Dark Sky in the national park there. And it was really bringing all that together. It was really my tourism background. We'd been away in South Africa and had been doing some night sky viewing. And I came back, looked up at the night sky above me in Terry Hills, where we were living at the time, and thought, this is just as good, if not better, than we've got any that I've seen anywhere in the world. And what are we doing to preserve it? And so with Fred working at Siding Spring Observatory, we decided together to go about trying to create the first dark sky place. And that's just given me an enormous understanding and respect for dark sky places and the impact that light at night plays on our natural environment. And then just shortly after that, I was managing Sydney Observatory and doing really large scale tourism projects there. I was really brought in to try and look at how we could increase the numbers of visitation to a very small building in a historic landmark that really couldn't be changed. So how could we adapt the capacity of the environment to bring more people in, to experience it, to appreciate what we had there, and thoroughly loved that position. And I know that a couple of people joining us today are past guides and colleagues from Sydney Observatory with me. And I think actually I should be handing this over to them because they're probably better than anything and anything I can tell you, because they were fabulous. Anyway, and then just to increase my knowledge of dark skies, I was one of the founding directors of the Australasian Dark Sky Alliance. It came off the back of Australia's first dark sky conference at Siding Spring. And we realised that there were a lot of people very passionate about dark skies, wanting to do some more to help preserve this wonderful environment, but not knowing how or not having the capacity to do it on their own. So the Australasian Dark Sky Alliance was formed in 2019. And really been doing some wonderful things to engage community policymakers and the general community in dark skies. But this webinar has come about from phenomenal demand. I have been asked by almost every state in Australia, except for Western Australia, because Carol Redford, who's also joining us today, is doing an amazing job leading programs over there. But there's this desire, there's this commitment from our destination programmers to actually look at the benefits of dark skies and how we can use it more for tourism purposes, and not really knowing where to start or how to get involved, and also seeing probably the issues that can come before it. If you know, without seeing the benefits, you can easily see the obstacles, I guess, that are in place before. So this webinar is about trying to overcome some of those obstacles and trying to get you on your way. So what is dark sky tourism? And I think that most of you would probably immediately think, okay, it's telescopes, it's out there stargazing under wonderful skies. But if you take a look at these pictures, you can see that it's probably a bit bigger than that. And I would really encourage you to think of those things. So, you know, wildlife spotting in trees, glamping, even in festivals, bringing Star Wars people together, looking at our natural environment, fireflies and glowworms, really, really delving into cultural connection to our night sky, such as this carving up at Elvina Track in the National Park in Ku-ring-gai, and the beautiful dark sky emu over the top. And even things like creative and arts festivals that can bring people together. So whilst we think of telescopes being probably the main source of draw card, the main source of attention, and the main way that we can get people involved, it can be so much more. And I think that is one of the things that people forget, or that they think that they should have to, you know, they've got a lovely dark sky, they're going to start a community event, and off they go and buy telescopes, not realizing how hard they are to use, how hard they are to maintain, how hard they are to keep people safe around them, etc. And so it just becomes something that sits in a shed. And immediately people sort of start thinking this is all a little bit too hard. So that'd be my first tip. Think about what else you can bring to your natural environment and your own skills, your own capacities to actually draw people in. Because almost anything that you can do at daytime, you can do at nighttime, and you can bring people in a slightly different way. So don't limit yourself or your audience. That's the other thing too. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So this is the magic of night. And I'm just going to give you an example of an experience. It's probably the one that I speak of the most. And this is a little hut in the middle of Ireland, in the County Mayo, actually northwest corner of Ireland. My best nighttime experience was held in that little shack there. Now, that little shack's probably a couple of 100 years old. It's built of bricks. It's lovely and warm. It has a little fireplace, and it's just overwhelming with beautiful historic feeling, nostalgia within the building. Now, the night that we went there, it wasn't a starry sky. It wasn't as clear as that you can see above it. In fact, it was howling a gale, and there were clouds going so fast it looked like a series, something out of one of the vampire movies. But having walked into this dark sky forest, having experienced a little bit of information about how it became a dark sky place and why it was important to the local people to do so, we then went into this lodge. There was 20 of us. We sat down in comfy chairs, and there was a storyteller in the middle of the room who did magic. He literally did magic. So whilst he was telling us about the cultural connections to the place, the folklore, the traditional stories of leprechauns and all those sorts of things, he was pulling coins out of people's ears, or patting their head and coming out with scarves and all sorts of wonderful, clever things. But we were hearing about the night sky, we were hearing about the culture, and it was all in this beautiful dark setting. And probably the dram of whiskey that we had with it was also quite inspirational. But I'm giving you examples of what we can do that's not just telescope related, and the importance of bringing in that capacity of storytelling, etc. So don't just use the night as a backdrop. It is the stage. So, and I think that that's, you know, a very big shift that we actually have to make in Australia. We use night, we use the darkness so that we can light it up with things like Vivid and light shows, etc. But we actually have to start thinking about it being the stage and how we're going to actually make it look as good as possible. So the other thing is that we really need to understand how rare and privileged the experience of night skies are. Now, when you look at this picture, screenshot taken from lightpollutionmap.info, you can see just how very limited light pollution is across the continent, really. Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, obviously great big patches of light, a little bit more in, or a little bit less, I should say, in Adelaide and Perth. But look at that dark sky that we have everywhere else. And even really, when you consider it, it's probably only an hour or two drive out of some of the big cities to actually get to somewhere dark, which is really rare globally. And I just put in this slide also of our Asian neighbours just to show how this is an opportunity for markets. Now, this is Destination New South Wales. I know are aiming very hard at getting Indian, Chinese, Asian travellers generally, Japanese travellers into Australia. And that dark skies offer a really big opportunity to this market because it's something that they can't do. If they can, they really have to travel for it. To experience it. So yeah, a reminder that Australia has some of the darkest, clearest and most accessible night skies. And this is a massive canvas that we could be working with to bring more people to Australia or to do some really beautiful experiences. Now, awe. It's such a big word. And in fact, as I was lying in bed a couple of nights ago with insomnia, there was a psychology podcast on awe and curiosity. And I thought, my goodness, this couldn't be any better timing because that is what it is. The night sky just inspires a sense of being, a sense of emotion that is really, really difficult to explain. And it's probably because you haven't experienced it before. The words that you need to explain it don't exist in your vocabulary and probably don't exist to many of us. So drawing on that, how can we make it an awesome experience rather than just, getting people out there looking at telescopes? How can we inspire that curiosity? How can we try to give people words to explain what they've seen? And I just love this image. I'd love to know where it was. I think it might be Sea Lake, but I'm not sure. And so, yeah, just sparking that sense of curiosity and deep sense of seeking. So that might be asking your audience, how do you feel right now? What do you imagine First Nations people might have experienced when they looked up at this night sky? Is this the first time you've ever seen a night sky? How will you talk about it to your children or your grandchildren or your friends when you go home? Now, all those sorts of questions actually make it a deeper experience rather than just telling people facts about what they're seeing. That's important, but encompassing that emotional connection is really, really important and actually inspires curiosity. So sort of changing shift a little bit here. I talk about people's why, and it's a pretty big thing now. Everybody talks about their purpose or their why as to why they're creating dark sky. Well, they're doing their job. Why we do anything really? And obviously money is probably one of the key drivers for most of us. We're doing this because we want to earn an income. That might be one of them. It might be that we have a real spiritual or a real personal connection to the night sky, and we really want to share it. So for me, it's probably that's my key driver. I'm really passionate about getting people involved with this, not because I'm really passionate about astronomy, but because I'm really, really dedicated to making the dark sky environment or the night environment something that is there for our future generations. So that's my driver. Some people want to learn or teach. They just want to learn more about it, and in doing it, they're also becoming fabulous teachers. Or some people are just natural teachers. People just want to go out and educate, or they're really flamboyant and they're really good at teaching and educating people. And then finally, and this actually came off the Google form sheets that some of you filled out for me, which was really helpful. Thank you. That you want to actually make policy or government or, radical change to legislation, etc. And you don't know how to do it anymore. And I would argue that whilst all of these are really important, not one of them is more important than others. You might relate to one of them more than one of the other categories. But I would encourage you to think about which ones are those, one or two of those things, so that you're actually It's not just a one-sided thing. You want to actually make this as deep and rich for you as well as for others. And that's where I come up with their why. So why are people coming? If you're creating a dark sky experience, what is it that they want out of it? And you can see a couple of words around the screen there: absorption, passive, active, and immersive. And with anything, I guess, this is an opportunity that could be an entertaining experience. They don't really care what they get out of it. They just want to have a fun night out. So there's experiences like that you might have a dark sky festival, or you might have a comedy night under the stars, or whatever. It's just a fun experience. Then you get people that want the aesthetics. They just really want to have that beautiful moment, that experience that's sticks in their brain forever and ever, and they want to think about it. They want to take it away. It might be a family moment, something that they can share forever and ever. They want to see the beauty. They just want to see the beauty of it. And again, the other side of it, they want to learn. They want to have an interactive experience where they walk away and go, okay, that was amazing. This is what I'm going to do now. This was this person was a teacher. They told me so much. They gave me the grasp of this. Now I want to go away and learn some more. So it's a really active positioning. And then again, some people just want that spiritual connection. They want to learn about the cultural heritage. They want to think about, where they've come from, why they're here, why we're on this earth. It's and again, don't ever think about just creating an experience for one part of the audience. Everybody's got a little bit of them in all of this. So they might want to have an entertaining and educative experience. They might want to have an aesthetic experience that actually really gives them a beautiful emotional philosophical connection to the night sky. So that might be something like yoga or music under the stars, or just simply lying under the stars and looking up and seeing what there is. It could be, as I said, a comedy show under in a dark educational setting, or it could be dining. There's so many opportunities. And again, I think one of the mistakes that we make is to only deal with one side. We often, and I'll go into this a little bit later, but it's very easy just to think, okay, people came here and they wanted to learn this and they wanted to do that. And we give them facts, 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 facts. And, after about 5 facts, people are a bit brain dead. So more than anything else, our dark sky experiences should be giving people a reason to gather after dark. And that experience of getting together for a fire, campsite, drink, or dinner in a nice, warm, comfy hygge room. It is much different from being in a brightly lit environment. And it does actually give people a different way of engaging with one another. Now, I've seen people stand under dark skies, complete strangers, stand and hold hands because they just wanted to be together. They just, in this awe-inspiring moment, they just wanted to share it. So they were standing there together. I've seen people come to tears because they couldn't express what they were seeing. One lady, 76, said, first time she saw Saturn, why did it take me this long to see Saturn? Why has it been so long? And I've seen people just get up and talk, people who are introverted and hardly interact at all during the day, but in a dark sky environment or a dark environment, they don't care what they look like. They can talk to anybody. Everybody's sort of in that position of being neutral. Our defenses are different. Our psychology is different. Even our physical interactions, our skin feels temperature differently. Our eyes are experiencing the world differently. So there's so many different aspects that we can bring into this. And then, of course, it's a reason to travel, really, dark skies. And I just pulled this up. It's a reason to learn, have adventures, be anonymous. Life's too short, and meet people. These are all reasons, you can keep reading through that list, that people can use dark sky experiences to be together. And I'd encourage you again to use all of those. Think about how, when you're creating your experiences, what of those might be relevant to your experience as you're creating it. So I think with all of this, it's really important to create a story that connects. Now, one of the things that comes out across this when I talk to groups is the night sky is just absolutely astounding in the sense that it really breaks down barriers. There's different, ages, all different ages experience it differently, but they all love it. Little kids have the best questions. Adults have a memory of it from their childhood or from with their grandparents or all sorts of things. There's cultural experiences, across the globe that everybody can tap into those stories and that richness. And just horizons, literally, physically. Australia once again blessed with a sunrise to sunset horizon, with very little in the middle sometimes. So we can really create a story that connects us universally and globally. So what are you doing when you're creating your experience? What story, what thread gives you the opportunity to connect people, connect us to planet, connect us to place? And I think that's a really important part. Now, you might see this cartoon on screen. If this guy doesn't wrap it up real soon, I'll reflect sunlight off my watch and set off the sprinklers. I don't know about you, but I have certainly been, oh dear, my screen's going to end in 10 minutes, even though I've paid for it. Okay, we'll keep this going. We've had speakers that have just gone on and on and on, and you think, oh my God, I just want him to stop. I'm so bored. Or it could be too many facts, too many bits and pieces, too many details. So how can you just choose the key points that you want to make relevant to your experience? So it comes down to respect, really. Respect your guests. Where have they come from? Have they a background that they're completely ignorant to science? Are they completely ignorant to dark skies? Have they ever been in a dark sky before? Is this something that is curious and interesting to them, or is it something that's difficult? Remember, this is a symbiotic relationship. So how can you bring your audience in? What can you ask of them? Can they ask questions of you? Can they be comfortable to speak with you? Get rid of the jargon. Jargon is used by professionals within a professional organization, within a professional setting. Use words that everybody can understand and make it feel comfortable. As soon as you start using jargon, and I would also argue using graphs or numbers, a lot of the audience turn off. In fact, I think it was Alan and Unwin that said that they were really surprised that Stephen Hawking's book sold because it had so many numbers and so many graphs in it. They were really, it's probably about him more than anything. And I would argue that just going into a need to know basis is enough. Don't feel that you have to give everybody the whole story that night. Give them enough that they walk away and think, okay, that was really, really interesting. What else can I go and learn about? That piqued my interest. That was really great. And to do so, you need to create a safe and comfortable environment. Now, that's my attempt of humor, sorry. That's a little bit more than just making sure that people, know the weight of the path or that they're not going to trip over or anything. My background in psychology tells me that people will not listen if they don't feel safe. So that could all comfortable. So if you've got audiences that are standing up, looking up at the night sky for 45 minutes and it's cold and it's uncomfortable, they're not going to listen to you for that long. If they have never been out in the dark before, you might need to warm them up. You might want to start the event at sunset, or just really ask them, how are you feeling right now? And then ask them again at the end, have you overcome any senses of fear of the dark? Any of those sorts of questions. So it's setting it up. It's making sure that they know the basic format of the night. You also want a few surprises and give them a few things that they weren't expecting, but not things that make them feel unsafe. So yeah, I would argue that that's a really critical point to the event too. Mindful use of light. Now, this is our opportunity to teach people about mindful use of light. And I can't tell you the number of events that I've been to where I have had fabulous presenters talk about, the nearest galaxy and how the light from those stars have come to us over 3.6 light years or whatever it is, and have actually not mentioned anything about light pollution or how the guests should be using light. So, just this is a real platform. Don't let an opportunity go to talk about light pollution or the impacts of light on the night environment or our body or our budget, etc. Use it as an opportunity to educate, even things like teaching people how to use headlamps or using cellophane over their phones, etc., so that they don't blind people. It's just an education opportunity as well. Now, I'm going to move on. That picture there, I was Googling recently Osaka Botanic Gardens and was a little bit horrified that the first 50 photos that came up were all Osaka Gardens actually lit up with illuminated projects. Now, I don't know why Zoom has given me only 40 minutes for this presentation because I paid for extra and it guaranteed that I had got that. I'm just wondering whether I stop here. Actually, I'm going to keep going for a few more minutes and then we can stop and I might restart it. So apologies for that. So planet and the planet. Now, this is one of the biggest draw cards with night experiences. We do rely on good weather generally. We hope that the stars will come out, that the telescopes will pick up everything and we'll have a clear and wonderful night. But more often than not, it's not ideal. So always have a plan B. And make sure that people know that plan B in advance. I think one of the most disappointing things that I've been to recently was we were at an event and because of bad weather, it was cancelled and it was postponed and it was postponed and postponed again. And really, by the time we actually did it, we went from an audience of 100 people to about 15 because people just dropped off and dropped off. So I would always suggest that having a plan B is important and that you do go ahead with it, that that's announced before the event so that people know it, and that it's not a surprise. Yeah, that would be it. So remember to honor the dark and elevate the night. And this is a picture of Brian May, an astronomer, and you probably know him better as the lead guitarist in Queen. But again, let's make this the stage, make night the stage, and make it important. Don't just make it about you, make it about your audience, of course, just it is the key. It is the thing. So use it as your most important part. So in summary, thoughtful design equals unforgettable experience, and purpose and personal connection. So why are you doing it? What's your personal connection? But remember that from the other side of the coin as well. What are they here for? Keep comfort and safety front of mind. Bring people, place, planet together, and make sure that you're appealing to more than one sector. And then there's that really tricky balance of keeping things flexible and structured. We don't want to be too dictatorial, but you also want to keep people safe. You want to keep things going in time, and making sure that you are delivering what you said you were going to do as well. Biggest mistakes, not doing what you're passionate about. So if you're a yoga instructor, don't go and try and get a telescope and set it up. Do yoga under the stars. If you're a musician, find some way of doing it that way. If you're passionate about policy and change, do that. Buying telescopes and not knowing how to use them. I can't tell you how many telescopes I've seen in sheds that never get used. Appealing to one section of an audience only, trying to do too much, and thinking someone else will do it. Now, I've decided to see if there's an interest in doing some dark sky experience workshops, and we'll be running them on after this event if you're interested. So I'll let you know how to get in touch with me if you do. Basically, we'll be covering in more depth sensory-rich and dark sky-driven experiences, basics of light pollution, ensuring that safety in a bigger way, integrating local culture, wellness and planet, and planning, marketing and pricing. So if anyone is interested, this is just a feeler. I'm really keen to run it to see how we can create more dark sky places, more dark sky experiences, more dark sky wealthy ambassadors by bringing people together to do this. So if you are interested, I'm just going to go to this slide. I've looked around, it's valued at about 1,500. I'm suggesting 350, and that is the code if you're interested in joining. Now, with less than a minute, I'm going to stop this and I'm going to start it again and hope that we can actually jump into some questions, because I always think the questions are the most important part. So please join me again in 1 minute.